The best friend we never had.
Welcome back to my channel, guys. If you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Alexander Omoni, and I'm super excited to dive into another movie review with you today. We've got a real treat on our hands because today we're going to talk about a movie that's as hilarious as it is chaotic. Ricky Stanicky. Now, if you've never heard of Ricky Stanicky before, don't worry, because by the end of this video, you'll be itching to watch it, or at the very least, you'll get a kick out of the wild ride that is this movie. And if you have seen it, well, you're in for a fun breakdown that might make you appreciate it or laugh at it even more. So, let's jump right in. Ricky Stanicky is a 2024 American comedy film co-written and directed by Peter Farrelly, who you might know from his work on Green Book and Dumb and Dumber. The film boasts a star-studded cast including Zac Efron, Jermaine Fowler, Andrew Santino, Lex Scott Davis, Anja Savcic, Jeff Ross, William H. Macy, and John Cena. With a lineup like that, you already know you're in for some serious laughs. The movie kicks off in the 1990s, and what better way to start a comedy than with a prank gone wrong? We've got three kids, Ted, JT, and Wes, up to some mischievous antics on Halloween night. Picture it. The scene is dark, and these kids are out in the woods, costumes and all. Ted, the ringleader, is dressed as Maverick from Top Gun, which is already a win in my book. But then what happens next? They decide to play a prank that spirals completely out of control. Now I want you to imagine this. You're 10 years old thinking you're the smartest kid on the block. And then, boom. Your little prank almost burns down a house. It's the kind of moment where you can't decide whether to laugh or cry, and these kids, well, they definitely choose to run. This is where things get interesting. Our trio, in a panic, comes up with a scapegoat, a fake person to blame their mischief on. Enter Ricky Stanicky. That name, born out of pure desperation, is scrawled on a jacket they leave at the scene of the crime. And just like that, Ricky Stanicky, the imaginary troublemaker, is born. Now, fast forward 20 years later, our trio is all grown up, but guess what? Ricky Stanicky is still very much alive in their lives. He's their go-to excuse, their imaginary friend who takes the fall for all their bad decisions. This brings us to the present day where Ted, who's now a successful adult with a seemingly perfect life, is still using Ricky Stanicky to get out of tricky situations. But here's the kicker. His wife, Erin, has never met this so-called friend, Ricky. Now, here's where things get wild. I'm sure we've all been in that situation where we tell a little white lie and it just snowballs, right? Well, Ted's lie about Ricky being a real person takes on a life of its own when Erin decides she wants to meet Ricky. And what do Ted and his friends do? They panic, of course. They need to find a Ricky Stanicky, and they need to find him fast. This is where the movie truly shines in its ridiculousness. The trio hires an actor, Rod, to play Ricky. And let me tell you, this guy is an absolute disaster in the best way possible. Rod's life is a mess. He's broke, he's got a drinking problem, and he's not exactly what you'd call clean cut. But despite all of that, he's determined to play the part of Ricky Stanicky, the saintly, well-dressed, and perfect friend. Rod's transformation is hilarious. The scenes where they try to whip him into shape literally are comedy gold. There's one part where they try to get him to jog on a treadmill, and the guy can barely last a minute without collapsing. And then, of course, there's the wardrobe makeover. They stuff him into skinny jeans so tight that, in his words, my junk is migrating back into my trunk. Seriously, who writes this stuff? It's just so perfectly absurd. Now I have to ask you guys, what would you do if you had to train someone to be the perfect version of a person who doesn't even exist? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm dying to hear how you'd handle this kind of situation. Anyway, back to the story. Rod, despite all odds, starts to pull it together, or at least he fakes it well enough. He shows up at Ted's birthday party as Ricky Stanicky, and everyone buys it. And by everyone, I mean Ted's wife, Erin, her friends, and even her super intimidating father, Mr. Lambert. That's right, folks. Mr. Lambert, who could scare the life out of anyone with his cold stares, actually likes Ricky. This is where the tension really starts to build, because you just know this whole charade is going to come crashing down at some point. So here we are with a fake Ricky Stanicky who's now being welcomed into the fold, and it's all going surprisingly well until it's not. But that's where I'm going to leave you for now. The twists and turns that follow are both hilarious and cringe-worthy, and trust me, you'll want to see how this mess unravels. If you're still with me, thank you for sticking around. This movie is a roller coaster of ridiculousness, and we've only just scratched the surface. In the next part of this review, we'll dive deeper into how the story unfolds, the characters, and whether or not this whole crazy scheme holds up till the end. So, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out. Tell me in the comments, what's the craziest lie you've ever told? And did it ever blow up in your face like this one? I'm looking forward to hearing your stories, and maybe we can all laugh about the times we tried to pull a Ricky Stanicky ourselves. All right, guys. So where did we leave off? Yes, our beloved disaster Rod is now fully embracing the role of Ricky Stanicky. At this point in the movie, you're probably on the edge of your seat wondering, how long can these guys keep up the act? And honestly, that's the magic of this film. It keeps you guessing, laughing, and cringing all at the same time. So Ted's birthday party is in full swing, and Rod, aka Ricky, is somehow managing to charm everyone. He's telling wild stories, giving heartfelt speeches, and even hitting a few decent golf shots. Well, after a few too many tries, but hey, who's counting? The real kicker here is how he manages to win over Mr. Lambert, Ted's future father-in-law, who's about as easy to impress as a brick wall. Now let's talk about the performances. Rod, played by whoever the actor might be in your imagination, totally steals the show. His character is this mix of cluelessness and bizarre wisdom that somehow works. You can't help but root for him, even though you know he's the last person who should be in this situation. It's the kind of performance that makes you laugh out loud one moment and then wonder how on earth things are going to go south in the next. But let's get back to the plot. Things start to get really dicey when Mr. Lambert, in a shocking twist, decides that Ricky Stanicky should join his company as the new head of sales. Yep, you heard that. Right. Rod, the barely functioning actor, is now being offered a high-paying job at a prestigious firm. And Ted? He's stuck in a nightmare of his own making because now his imaginary friend is about to take the career opportunity that he's been gunning for. Talk about a backfire. At this point, I'm sure you're thinking, there's no way this can end well. And you'd be right. The pressure starts to mount as Ted realizes that his lie has spiraled so far out of control that it's threatening to destroy everything he's worked for. But here's the thing, he's in too deep. He can't just pull the plug on Ricky now, not without risking his relationship with Aaron, his job, and basically his entire life. The comedy here is all about the absurdity of the situation. You know that feeling when a tiny lie grows into this massive, unwieldy beast. That's the heart of Ricky Stanicky. It's a relatable mess. Well, maybe not this extreme, but you get the idea. It's like watching a train wreck that you can't look away from, but in the best, most entertaining way possible. Now, the tension ramps up when Ted has to navigate his way through a series of increasingly ridiculous scenarios to keep the Ricky ruse alive. There's a scene where he has to coach Rod through a high-stakes business meeting, and I was literally on the edge of my seat. It's this hilarious blend of cringe and suspense, because you know one slip-up could expose the whole charade. And let's talk about Erin for a second. She's not just the typical love interest. She's smart, funny, and way more perceptive than Ted gives her credit for. There are moments where you can see her starting to piece things together, and it's like, oh no, Ted, she's onto you. But Ted is so deep in his web of lies that he keeps digging the hole even deeper. One of the standout moments in the movie is when Ted, completely desperate, tries to convince Aaron that Ricky's strange behavior is due to some new medication he's on. I mean, really, at this point, you're just shaking your head at how far gone Ted is, but somehow, Rod manages to pull it off, keeping the facade alive just a little bit longer. The climax of the movie comes when everything finally starts to unravel, and believe me, it's as chaotic as you'd expect. There's a big company event where Ricky, Rod, is supposed to give a keynote speech. Imagine the pressure. Rod, who's been winging it this entire time, is now expected to deliver a coherent, inspiring speech in front of Ted's colleagues, bosses, and Aaron. And let's not forget Mr. Lambert, who's banking on Ricky to be his new golden boy. Now, I won't spoil exactly how it all goes down, but let's just say things don't go according to plan. The speech quickly turns into a disaster, and the truth about Ricky Stanicky, both the real and the fake, starts to come out. It's one of those moments where you're laughing, but at the same time, you're cringing because you know Ted's whole world is about to come crashing down. As everything comes to a head, the movie delivers on its promise of chaotic comedy. The characters are forced to confront their lies, and in the process, they learn some pretty hard truths about themselves and each other. But here's what I loved about the ending. Despite all the craziness, there's a heartwarming message buried underneath all the laughs. It's about friendship, honesty, and the lengths we go to protect the people we care about, even when we make a mess of things. By the end of Ricky Stanicky, you're left with a film that's both hilarious and oddly touching. It's a reminder that while lies can spiral out of control, the truth, as painful as it can be, is always the best way forward. And sometimes, the friendships we think we've messed up are stronger than we ever imagined. So, what's the final verdict? Ricky Stanicky is a wild ride from start to finish. It's packed with laugh-out-loud moments, cringe-worthy scenarios, and a cast of characters that you'll both love and want to shake some sense into. If you're looking for a comedy that doesn't take itself too seriously but still manages to land an emotional punch, this movie is definitely worth the watch. And that's a wrap on today's review. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hey, if you've ever found yourself in a sticky situation like Ted, okay, maybe not this sticky, share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you managed to wiggle your way out of it. Thanks for hanging out with me, Alexander Omoni, on this crazy journey through Ricky Stanicky. Until next time, keep watching, keep laughing, and remember, no matter how wild things get, always stay true to yourself. See you in the next video.